Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another round of Mind Your Fucking Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks, coming to you as always from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. This is the Mind Your Fucking Business podcast. We appreciate you tuning in this week. We're brought to you as always by the Bamboozle Project. You can go check them out at thebamboozleproject.com. Use promo code MYPB. Save yourself 20% off on all order. With summer in full swing here as well, you can definitely be checking out some of the summer gear that's on there, as well as the winter gear, because as we know, things come around. So go check that out. We thank DraftKings for their sponsorship as well. This is episode 159, Cientos and 49. So we thank you for tuning in using the Spanish feature available to you for this episode. You can send us your questions at any time, a variety of different ways. One way is way more effective. If you want to go the non-effective route, I mean, we'll see it and we'll get to it. That would be emailing us at mypbshow@gmail.com, conveniently across your screen. Or you can do what most people do, and you probably do this as well if you're listening. You can DM us. You can comment on our stuff on Instagram, which is at Mind Your Fucking Business, and you can get us there, and we will get back to you as we always do. You can listen to the show and stream it on a variety of different ways. You can use Spotify or iTunes if you'd like to listen to the audio feature. Or if you've decided, hey, I want to see what these guys look like and let's watch them live or watch with camera, you can do that on Instagram Live. You can also watch it on replay on YouTube. So a variety of different ways. If you want to get
dudes,
if you want to, this must be a different show. If you want to get to us and see us or listen to us and get our feedback on stuff, you have more ways to do so. How are you, sir?
Great. And we're live too. So you definitely want to jump into the comments. That's the quickest.
That is the quickest way.
Live.
Right. We certainly
Speed of light.
We don't take them all, but we do take a lot of your comments. So if you have them, you can put them in. We are now, like, if you haven't, we had a very quick shift, as we kind of said last episode. The Rangers were eliminated. We then did another episode, and then we said, look, the MYPB summer schedule will be coming where we jump on, we jump off for a week. Then we come on a random day like today. We're on a Thursday, so we're taping this episode as of Thursday, June 27th.
Some grieving.
You'll do some of that, but you know what? There's not a lot of content. However, what is one thing that is nice about when you play into June, and the Rangers season ended on June 1st, is the offseason is incredibly short. Like, you know, you already are in a position where the preseason schedule, and we posted this, is already out for next year. I believe the NHL schedule, if I was guessing, that they never give you a warning on this stuff, I have a feeling it might be today, because last year was the day before the draft. So you got the NHL schedule coming out, but one thing we know definitively is going to happen is free agency starts on Monday. So there really is no kind of down rest for,
no rest for the wicked.
No, ain't no rest. So we get right into it. So last week, well, before we get into the Rangers, let's talk one thing about the Stanley Cup Final. I did not have a rooting interest. I do not like Florida. I do not dislike Florida. I don't like Edmonton. I don't dislike them. So I really kind of went into the series just hoping for a good finals and to watch hockey. I didn't get that until game 7. Like, I didn't feel like a lot of the games were that good or that close until you got to game 7. And as B-Rock and I were joking before we went live this morning, and I apologize for the delay here while we were live this morning. If you saw the technical fiascos that were going on,
I apologize for the reason.
Well, I mean, it just,
I will take the
it's a lot calmer around here than it was 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, these wires. I'm gonna have to go to a Guitar Center and get a bunch of wires. These wires are dying on us.
Yeah. So anyway, I was joking with B-Rock that Monday night with game 7, like, if you're a sports fan, I don't care if you like a team, I don't care if you like a sports, I don't care if you're even a fair weather fan and you don't know a lot about sports, but you watch it. When you say the words game 7, you watch. And when you get to the Stanley Cup Finals and you have a game 7, it's the first time it happened in 5 years since it happened with the Bruins and Blues in 2019, you get excited for it. And I thought it was really cool for me personally. I don't know if a lot of Ranger fans felt this way, but I felt like it was cool to be able to watch this game as just an impartial. I didn't have any rooting interest. I wouldn't have cared if Florida won, and I wouldn't have cared if Edmonton won. But what I wanted to do was just enjoy this game as a hockey fan, and it was a great game. The game-winning goal in the second period, maybe Stuart Skinner probably wishes he had it back. But Edmonton had a million chances to tie it and couldn't. And I was joking with B-Rock that I would have died. Like, I'm not even joking that I think if that was the Rangers in that scenario and it was game 7 and it was a 2-1 game, and I probably would have been there too because it was home and I have season tickets. I literally, and my wife even said it the other day, I would have been dead. I don't think I could sit through that.
Massive heart attacks.
I just don't. I just don't know how I would have been able to get through that.
Without having the heart attacks, it was an entertaining game to watch. I wanted to go to overtime. I was pushing for overtime.
So the only reason I didn't want it to go to overtime, which is not valid, which is it was like 11 o'clock and I wanted to go to bed. And so then, but I will say this, I never during the series for the most part got annoyed thinking like this could have been the Rangers. And then I did stay up and I watched the cup presentation. I watched the interviews. And then for a minute there, I was annoyed, and I'm like, oh, like, was this the best chance that they're gonna have going forward? Because it was a good chance. Now, if you told me a week ago when the series was 3-0 Florida, I was also a little more annoyed, thinking like, wow, the Rangers would have gone through Edmonton. But when you look and you saw how Edmonton came back, it was in the end kind of an even series, or definitely much more even than it was a week ago. So you cannot, and I saw people say this, you can't act like, well, the Rangers definitely would have beaten the Oilers had they gotten past the Panthers. You don't know that. They could have, for sure. I'm not saying they couldn't have.
Well, we thought that when it was 3-0.
Right, exactly. Right. But now at the end of the day, Edmonton throughout the playoffs, you have to give them credit. They had a way of adjusting in second half of the series. Like, they'd go down in series, and it's like, I don't know if they made in-series adjustments or in-game adjustments. And if it is, that's on the Rangers' old minor league coach Chris Knobloch, who's the head coach out there right now. But I mean, they did a great job adjusting. They would have adjusted to the Rangers. They would have found a way, I'm sure, and would have made it difficult. So, all right. Free agency starts Monday.
Yes.
Right. So before we even get there, let's talk about what happened last week. Chris Drury, we know this, has always, and I don't have a problem with this, keeps things close to his chest, right? He is not a general manager that is going to leak a lot of stuff. Like, a lot of times, and even now where we're at today, and we're going to talk about some of the things, Trevor Zegras, Patrick Kane, if you look at like the sources of the leaks, they're never coming from the organization. Okay. So last week, out of nowhere, because it's the Ranger way, Barclay Goodrow, we're going to take this in a chronological order here. Barclay Goodrow gets placed on waivers, right? Now, if you don't know how waivers work, any of the other teams can pick him up. And if nobody picks him up, he's still property of the Rangers. Okay. Now, at first, and I said this, and I was wrong, obviously. I had said that, well, Goodrow is going to be placed on waivers. I think he's making $3.8 million a year, which, let's be fair, is a lot for a fourth line guy, which is what his role here is. I understand he was good in the playoffs, but he's a fourth line guy. I think he scored 2 goals in the regular season. $3.8 million when you're in a sport where you have a salary cap and you have to allocate everything in a financially responsible way. That's a lot of money. That should almost be the total of your fourth line, not just one player on your fourth line. Okay.
Yes.
So he's placed on waivers.
Yes.
And the thought process at the time was, I guess we'll see, right? Okay.
Well, let me ask you this before you finish here.
And you can put up Nikolai's comment, who apparently predicted that he was.
And that kind of piggybacks on what I'm about to say. So he had 2 goals in the regular season. He ups his game and plays well in the playoffs. The reason why he got no more than 2 goals in the regular season was he not getting enough playing time? Was he not getting his opportunities?
He's known as a playoff performer. Now, what you said is interesting because this is where I think what you're talking about is why people are having a little bit of a problem with this. Okay. They know Barclay Goodrow scores the game-winning goal in Game 2 in overtime against Florida. He scored some other good goals, Game 3 in Florida as well. So in their mind, the recent memory of Barclay Goodrow is, this guy's great. Yeah. He's unbelievable.
Give him more play.
He scored more than Zibanejad.
Yeah.
Facts. Now we're just going to give him up. So the next day, Mike Greer, who's the general manager out in San Jose, and San Jose is terrible, by the way. I mean, they're just awful. Picks him up off waivers. Clearly, I think, I don't think I'm a detective in saying this. Mike Greer used to work for Chris Drury. They both went to Boston University, where conveniently I went to college and followed hockey, but didn't play hockey, obviously. But there's a connection there. And I'm rocking the Geneseo hockey shirt, speaking of college hockey today. Clearly there was some arrangement where, Chris, if you put him on waivers and you need us to take him, or maybe it's not, we'll do you a favor. No, we'll take him because we have cap room and we're terrible.
Yeah.
We will take Barclay Goodrow. And what happens later that night? It comes out reports that they are playing or San Jose is planning on taking Barclay Goodrow, and the next day it's confirmed. Now everybody goes crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody goes crazy.
Why'd they go crazy?
Why did you give up Barclay Goodrow? He wasn't the problem, yada, yada, yada. Again, you're allocating $3.8 million for a player who scored 2 goals in the regular season. And you know damn well, whether you want to admit it or not, that you wouldn't bet your mortgage that next year in the postseason, let's hope the Rangers get there, that all of a sudden Barclay Goodrow is going to turn into a better stat machine like he did this year. You weren't going to do that. Now, this is where emotions got involved. Barclay Goodrow has a list of teams that he will not go to. What team is on that list?
San Jose.
San Jose. So Chris Drury now is in a situation where he's saying to himself, I need to get rid of Barclay Goodrow. This is the consensus that me and the Brain Trust and the organization have said, this is the first move we need to do. Get rid of Barclay Goodrow. I cannot trade him to San Jose because this team is on the list. But what I can do is this sneaky under the table, which, by the way, is not illegal. There's nothing wrong with what he did. If anything, to me, it's insanely creative.
Okay.
I'm going to put him on waivers. I've already spoken to the general manager out there, Mike Greer, who's assured me he will be taken. And if for some reason some other general manager, the other 30 general managers, that's not myself or him, take him, then they can take. He's still off my books. So everyone that's sitting here and going ballistic about it, I loved it. And we had so many people last week, because we were not on, that were sending us things, hey, was it how would you interpret it? I thought it was brilliant. I don't have my job is not, and I understand Barclay Goodrow can be pissed off and he can have his feelings hurt, and I get it. But I want my general manager to do whatever it takes to get in a position where he's putting the best team out there. And maybe it's hurting a guy's feelings, or maybe it's going kind of a backwards way of getting someone off your roster or off your cap. I love it. I thought it was brilliant. And if you think that this team's odds next year, either in your head or in Vegas, of going to the Stanley Cup and, God forbid, winning the Stanley Cup is any less because Barclay Goodrow is off your team, you're nuts. You're nuts. We'll put on Nikolai's comment, and he's right. It's a business at the end of the day. And the GMs who seem to know how to play have a good record of winning. And he's right. I thought it was brilliant. And people because I think what happened was, your most recent memory was that Goodrow was good. And he was. He had a good playoffs. So in your mind, you're thinking, okay, he's a good player. And then you just watch your GM say, no, I'm not even going to trade him, because now you later learned you couldn't. San Jose was on the list. But I have a general manager that's saying, I'm just going to get rid of him. And people got mad at that. But it was a brilliant move. Now, part B of that, okay, that's really, here's the other thing. That's step one. Now you have to take the money that you save and allocate it in the right direction, or make the right signing, or put it towards a contract ongoing. The other thing, speaking of what happened when we were off, was the Kakko deal. Right? Now, we were on earlier that week, and I had said, and I think it was the clip of it went up either yesterday or the day before, when we were kind of going line item by line item of Ranger free agents as who do you keep and who do you not keep, was Kakko. And I said, I've reached a point with Kakko now where I'm just like, I've had enough. He can go somewhere else, send him to the West, where if for some reason he all of a sudden finds his game, he can find his game and play us twice a year versus 4 times a year and then in the playoffs.
Sure.
The Rangers then re-sign him because he was an RFA.
Mhm.
That does not mean that he cannot be traded still. He could very well be traded this weekend. As you know, the NHL draft is this weekend, tomorrow night in Vegas. And if there's ever a time other than the trade deadline itself in a calendar year where you have more trade movement, it's this weekend. So you can rest assured Chris Drury is not only looking at making moves over the weekend to better his team, but I am sure in some degree, Kaapo Kakko's name is continuously coming up in these conversations. Doesn't mean he's dead set on moving him or he's dead set on not, but he is coming up in conversation. The Kakko contract, to me, what I liked about it was if he's going to be here, and I will take your questions, guys, about the first round pick. I see that, and I'll get to it in a second. We're going to get to that. But the thing about the Kakko contract that I do like, let's say he stays here and Chris Drury doesn't move him. Again, I would like him not to be here, but I understand the logic of why, someone may say he should be here. You can't find a suitor for him. Nobody wants him. Chris Drury, Peter Laviolette sit down and say, you know what? We're going to keep Kaapo Kakko. I like the fact it's a one-year deal because at least in that situation, he has 1 year to prove himself, right? Because if he's here and he's signed and he doesn't do anything this year, again, on a one-year deal, on a walk, contract, which is in any sport, athletes are supposed to do well when you're a free agent, you're coming up, then like at some point you got to just move on.
Yeah. It stinks, but he's got to prove himself because how many years is it going to take for him to get in the groove of things?
And a good question, a good comment on Instagram by Gibby7731. Kakko either needs to be moved or kept and not considered for the top two lines and made a purely checking third line center and paid as such. And the key in there is paid as such, right? Because you can't be allocating a lot of money, kind of like Goodrow, if he's going to be on the third line. And the Kakko future is probably also one that will be discussed, hint, hint, on our Sunday series coming this week. But it is an interesting thing in the sense that he played on the top line, top wing, first line this year with Zibanejad and Kreider and didn't do well, right? So at some point, what is really the expectation level for Kaapo Kakko? That's a massive debate you could have. So we shall
if we're molding the world to Kakko, what is his strength? What would he excel? What area, position is he like? What can we do to make him successful?
Based on what you've seen,
yes.
Okay, Kakko is a third line winger. And he's effective in that road.
Okay.
But people like myself are going to have in our head still 5 years later, because it was 5 years in May when he was drafted, that this is a guy who was Hughes or Kakko, whoever the Devils don't take, you'll like who you get. And I watched the Devils get Hughes. And I'm now sitting here telling you I need my ceiling on this guy as a third line center. That's where it hurts.
Yeah.
And that's also where, in fairness to Kaapo Kakko, he gets screwed a little bit, right? Because he was drafted so high. So he's the expectations are high. I mean, I talk about the story in Newark Airport when he landed and the video. I wish I could I'm sure we could find it, where you had him coming down the escalator in Terminal B to get his bags. And Ranger fans were there to greet him because he was the next, Pope coming. And 5 years later, we don't even want him on our team. And if he is on our team, we don't even want him to be on a third line.
So my question is what's his? Maybe we're not putting him in an area to succeed. So like Panarin is really good at moving and dancing, right? Zibanejad's a sniper. Like, are we not putting him in a position to be successful?
Here's the thing: you've given him. He's not, and somebody's watching and he knows who he is. That can disagree with me, but you're not going to break up Trocheck, Panarin, and Lafreniere, right? That's one line, so he can't go there. The only other place he could go above being a third-line player is to play on the wing for Zibanejad and Kreider. So we've given him that chance, right? And it has not worked. So if that's now there's no other option.
So let me use basketball, for example. Are we trying to make a center be a point guard? Like, are we putting him in a position that he's comfortable in?
No, he's a wing. He's a wing. The question is, how effective of a wing can he be? Can he be as effective that he can be a top line right wing? And he has shown that he cannot, right?
Yeah.
But So the Kakko contract, I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, again, I am. You tell me this weekend he gets traded, I'll be all right. I'm not losing sleep over it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if he were to move on,
you're gonna pack his bags.
No, it wouldn't be like some other people.
Some other people you pack the bags.
It wouldn't be some other.
Would you
people.
open the limo door for him?
I would open the Uber.
You'd open the Uber. We're not paying for the limo.
No, I'm not paying for the limo.
You
You know what's
money.
weird? So totally aside, like when you land, like when I travel for work for my real job now, and like you get like picked up at the airport, there's barely any limo. I mean, it's all Uber. So like I'll pay for the Uber for him. I'll even send him in a limo.
Wow.
Okay. So free agency opening on Monday. I would say this. If you look at it from a positional need, and I don't know how you could even argue this point, all right? I mean, but if you guys want to argue this with me or tell me I'm wrong, that's more than fine. You can come at me. If there was a positional need that Chris Drury, just on like a strict, let's not talk names, let's talk positions.
Yeah.
You need a top line right wing. Again, this was not addressed last
year.
Past 2 years. Exactly. This has not been addressed. Yes. And when you look at the way that Zibanejad and Kreider played or lack of played with whoever was on that top line, it didn't work with Roslovic. It didn't work with Kakko. It didn't really work with Wheeler before he got hurt either. So it didn't work with Hedl when they experimented with that. Like at some point, you need to have a top line winger there and not be fiddling with it and trying to figure it out. The names that are out there, and you knew this was going to happen, right? So whoever first reported it, and I don't remember who it was, but whoever was first reporting it, you knew it was going to happen. And that was Patrick Kane, right? Patrick Kane, was here. He came at the trade deadline in 2023. I believe it was March 2nd was the deadline. He came like 2 days earlier. He didn't even wait. Yes, that is what happened because his first game was March 2nd at home versus Ottawa, right? And ticket prices skyrocketed. But Showtime on Broadway. Showtime on Broadway, if you remember, scored a goal in game 2 against the Devils of that series. That kind of put that game away and then did nothing the rest of the playoffs. And the Rangers decided, because he was an unrestricted free agent, and I don't think any of us had a real problem with it at the time, that they were going to let him walk and they were going to move on from Patrick Kane.
Was that a mistake?
The problem was, it's not that it was a mistake because he was also having surgery and he wasn't going to be really, at the time, they had thought he wasn't going to be ready to play at the earliest until November. So it made sense. You weren't going to re-sign him and teams were going to wait. He then went to Detroit and had what I would say is a decent season, but he was not a Patrick Kane of 10 years ago season. If that was what he was having, then you would re-sign him. I don't have here's my thing on Patrick Kane. I just told you that the one positional need, if I was thinking strictly position, that they needed to solve was going to be a top line right wing. Would I take a chance at Patrick Kane to fill that slot, knowing that he's probably not playing 82 games, but is he better than the other options that I can afford on the market? I don't mind Patrick Kane, but where I mind him is if it costs too much money, because again, this is a salary cap, and everything here needs is a complex puzzle that's got all the pieces need to add together to fit into the salary cap. And the fear that I would have if you were on the Patrick Kane train, it kind of rhymes, doesn't it? Kane train. If you're on the Kane train, is that somebody else, another general manager out there, will probably offer him more than what would be the top financial fit number here. And at that point, you need to walk away. Right?
They're going to give just enough because they want him, and it's going to be just a little bit too thick for our blood.
So people on the Instagram comments, and they're right, are all talking about how they need to, become more physical. I would agree with that for sure. That has been an issue.
I know someone who can help with that.
Who's that?
Rem Sanity.
We're not doing that. So, you want to get physical. I'm not sure the top line right wing is the answer. Now, one name that is out there, and B-Rock, who's sitting in the corner as a Devil fan, will know this name, and that is Tyler Toffoli.
Okay.
I don't love it. I wouldn't say I hate it. I don't love it. He's older. And I would think, again, similar to Kane, there's some general manager out there that is going to give him more money than what the Rangers should give him.
So this is obviously a position of concern.
Mm-hmm.
What's the budget? Speaking in businessman terms, what is the budget? What is our, like, obviously we don't want to, sell the farm for this position. What level of investment are we willing to make for this position?
For a top line right wing, I would say
when you say it like that, for a top line right wing, you're gonna pay mega bucks. But I think we just need someone to fill the position, do a good job.
You need to be willing, right? Because in a perfect world, it's not a perfect world. I would say, okay, I can get someone out there for a veteran minimum to play the top line right wing, which is almost what they tried to do with Wheeler. If you think about it last year, right? Come at the $750,000 mark and we'll plug you in there. That's a great bargain. If you had someone only taking up that much money, that's probably not realistic. You're not going to get that sort of a player. I would be willing to allocate maybe $2 million a year, $3 million a year, if that. Yeah. I don't want to go higher than that because, again, you've got to re-sign Igor. You've got Lafreniere who needs to be signed next summer. You've got a lot of other issues as well that you need to look at. Now, another name that has come up, and again, when I say other names that come up, this is not coming from the Rangers because the Rangers keep everything from their chest. So everyone will, jump to a conclusion. They see a Rangers link to a name. Oh, that must be coming from the front office, or it's leaked, or it's a beat reporter like Larry Brooks who has inside information, and it's not. But another name that has been mentioned is Trevor Zegras. Now, Trevor Zegras, the only reason I knew who Trevor Zegras was before he, became who he is because he went to Boston University. So I knew who he was in college because I went to school there, not at the same time, but I followed the college. And he was good. He got drafted out in Anaheim. He got a lot of acclaim because he did a Michigan in a game. He also was the cover athlete on the cover of NHL. I want to say the NHL video game. I want to say it was 2022 or 2023. Is it 2020? I think it was 2023. 2023. Yeah, 2023. So, which came out in 2022. So he was the cover athlete from there. Trevor Zegras is an enormously talented player, and he's young. If I am Pat Verbeek, who is the general manager out there in Anaheim, I would, on the surface, and again, I don't want to say like I know the situation that much out there in Anaheim because I don't, but I would be reluctant to move him. And if I was going to move him, I would be looking at him trying to get a king's ransom. If Chris Drury can find a way, also, again, we're coming back to a theme today. I'm wearing a college sweatshirt, although it's where Jenny from the block went. But if a theme of Boston University, Chris Drury, Boston University guy, Trevor Zegras, Boston University guy. So there are some ties. So there are certainly reasons to believe Chris Drury would like Trevor Zegras. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think if you can get a young guy that's talented, what I don't know is what the asking price would be for that and if it would be something I would be willing to pay. Now, if you told me, Pat Verbeek, the general manager, says to me on the phone, you want Trevor Zegras? I'll take Kakko. I'll take Zach Jones. I'll take your first-round pick this year, tomorrow, number 30. I would do it in a heartbeat. I mean, that's where I would drive Kakko and Jones to an airport.
What is the first-round pick? What number is it?
I think they're 30.
30.
So you cannot. So what the Rangers will do?
So you don't think you're not going to get a Trevor?
No, you're not going to get a Trevor Zegras. And the way that this franchise historically drafts, that whatever you get. I mean, you could draft number 2 with Kakko and screw it up.
So maybe we need to go. Maybe we need to aim for the 30s now.
Right. You could draft with number 9 with Vitaly Kravtsov and screw it up. I mean, it doesn't matter where you draft. The Rangers screw it up. So I'm not. I wouldn't be against Trevor Zegras at all. I just don't know about how realistic the possibility is for him to come here.
So
he's also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's from I think he's from Long Island. He's from somewhere around here.
Hometown kid.
Where is he?
He's from New York.
He's from New York. Yeah, he's definitely from around here.
How many draft picks do we have in this season?
I haven't even looked.
My point is,
you know what's going to happen tomorrow night, by the way, with the draft? This is where the NHL draft is different than the NBA draft last night. Although last night, if you watched the NBA draft, I knew none of these people. It's got to be the worst draft class ever. The Rangers will draft someone at pick 30 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or he'll draft, and then they'll draft, second round, whatever. If I will have no idea who these people are. The Rangers will then put out a scouting report on him, right?
Mhm.
Sniper, perimeter player, whatever, and they will make him sound great. And
Mhm.
I won't even know it. Now,
Wait,
Chris throws in a good point.
4 picks. Go
4
ahead.
picks.
Yes.
That Trevor Zegras trains with Chris Kreider in the offseason. Chris Kreider went to Boston College. So there's like a Boston
All right.
area hockey feel. Look, if you could get Trevor Zegras, I'm not opposed to it at all. I would love it. I just don't know what you would have to give up. And I would think, again, if I'm on the other side of the line in Pat Verbeek and the general manager out there, I'm asking for a lot in return.
What? And he's in Buffalo, you said?
He's in Anaheim, and he's from Northern Westchester. Thank you, Derek, and thank you, Chris, for putting that up.
You have 4 picks this year.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is the 30th pick. You traded your second round pick to Seattle for Wenberg.
Mm-hmm.
The third round, you traded your third round pick for Tarasenko and Mikkola. You get a 130th pick. You have a 159th pick, and you have a 191 pick. The 7th round, you traded your 7th round pick to the Penguins in the 2023 draft.
But the NHL draft, and I'm going to open up a can of worms with someone who's watching, you're not getting an impact player. Like whoever you drafted at 30 is not on this roster next year, right? Okay. It's very rare that happens. Lafreniere played right away. Jack Hughes played right away. Kakko. But like when you're late in the first round, the chances of you playing next year are slim. And it's even slimmer that you play next year and be a massive difference maker for the team that you're drafted on. So I don't really, it's not that I don't care about the draft. Yeah. It's just hard for me to cover because, hockey it's not like football where, everyone in the NFL draft is pretty much from college football. Yeah. Right. They'll draft people from some league in Moscow I never heard of. Really? I don't even know who these people are. Now, like I'll spend my time this weekend. Like I will actually, when the Rangers draft who they want, I'll then like look deeper into those players. But if you tell me like, at pick 130, I'm screaming at my screen, take this guy, take it. I'm not. So,
like the NBA and like the NFL, you're getting these from like the champions of the college, the tournament, the NCAA, right? Mm-hmm. So, what is the hotbed for hockey for the NHL? Like,
it's a mix. It's college hockey.
It's pretty much spread out. It's not Europe, like all college hockey.
Nah, it's all spread out. Now, good question from Gibby on Instagram. Do you look at former figure skater strong on his skates, Jeff Skinner, who was recently bought out on the cheap? I wouldn't be opposed to that, right? Like if Jeff Skinner will come here for a low-level, low financial deal, I don't have a problem with that. But again, the expectation is you're not getting the Jeff Skinner that he was in Carolina back in the day. You have to, it's kind of like Blake Wheeler. You have to understand you're not or even Patrick Kane for that matter. You're not getting the player that is coming to your mind when you're first thinking of them. Yeah. We're not living in those days.
So there's no like get 3 right wingers and roll the dice and hopefully one of them steps up the challenge. None of the people in this draft is going to fill a top 6 slot.
Correct. That is correct. You're not drafting anyone at 30 who's playing in the top 6 next year. Wow. You can mark that down. Right? Yeah. There's no chance. You're building for your future, right? Yeah. Maybe that's what the draft is. Kane or Gensel is a question on YouTube.
By the travel master.
Well, I mean, look, if you're telling me I'm not have to take contract into account and which player I would rather of the two, it's Jake Gensel by a mile. But Jake Gensel is going to command a lot of money on the free agency market. I would love it. Look, Jake Gensel, right? If you want the answer, there's 2 names I could tell you that if I could say money didn't matter and this was the 1990 New York Yankees and there wasn't a salary cap and I'll just go sign whoever I want and I can just sign either of these 2 players and just put them right on the right wing on night 1 and I'll be confident it's Jake Gensel or it's Sam Reinhart.
All right, but I don't know how they Gensel right now.
Gensel was traded midseason. He went to Carolina from Pittsburgh. Which now looks like a horrific deal because Carolina got him on a loaner deal and they're probably not re-signing him. Yeah. Right. So you gave up, whatever you gave up. You gave up a bunch of picks and a couple players for no reason because the Rangers eliminated them in the second round. He's a completely unrestricted free agent, but I would think that from what I've read, Gensel might end up in LA, which isn't bad to me because he's not in the division. Right. It's like Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid can be great. Yeah. And he is. He's all world. I'd kill to have a player like him. But he can only really bother me if I'm in the Stanley Cup Finals because I'm playing him twice a year and I can't play him until the finals.
Yeah.
That's like Gensel. Send him out west. It's like Kakko, right? Kakko's not great,
Mm-hmm.
but if he's going to ever develop, let him develop in the West. Let him go to Utah. Let him do something like that.
So there's no player, there's no B-level player just to help facilitate that line. There's no one out there. Who do you guys want? Put it in the comments section. Who do you guys want? 3 players that are out there. Who do we want? B-level. They just got to make sure the line is functioning, be able to pass the puck around. They don't have to be a superstar.
I don't know. I see some people mentioning Corey Perry. Corey Perry, we posted this. It's an amazing stat. He has been on the Stanley Cup losing team the last 4 years.
Maybe we don't. Yeah, I saw that pic.
That is.
Maybe we don't want him.
No, I'm not making it personal and saying I don't even want to sit here and say like I don't want him because of that.
Just like
and a lot of you guys are saying on Instagram you want Tyler Bertuzzi. We'll take that in a minute. But the Corey Perry thing. First off, I wouldn't want him, and I'm not making this personal against him because it's not just him that the team's lost the 4 times. Yeah. That is unbelievable. The odds the ability to do 4 out of 5 seasons where you are on the losing team, and it's not like you were on the same team for 4 years, and that team, like the Buffalo Bills, they just kept going there. No, you bounced around with like Dallas, Tampa, Edmonton, and could not win. And then on top of it, he had the whole situation he went through with Chicago, like randomly, booting him in the, due to a personal matter that happened in Nashville, and a road trip. Like, it's just, it's amazing. Tyler Bertuzzi, to me, I don't dislike it, but again, he's an older player here. You just have to temper your expectations, or you have to understand what you're getting when you have him. That's the only thing.
I'm not promoting getting a Band-Aid, putting a Band-Aid on, but it's just for the past 2 years you had nothing at that position, so maybe you need a Band-Aid, and then you maybe get like someone in the draft, and hopefully they can blossom, just like Kakko did.
Yeah, well, that will never happen. But yeah, I just think that you're not gonna. You have to understand that sometimes when you say a name, that name is not playing like they were playing when you're thinking of the name, right? And it's like Blake Wheeler's a great example of that. I'm not getting on Blake Wheeler, but like you didn't get Blake Wheeler here from 2013 when he came. You didn't when he was healthy. Last question would be this before we cut out is you have Igor. Now we posted this the other day as our Sunday, summer series post. And Igor is going to command a ton of money, right? If I'm the Rangers, I'm doing everything to sign him in this offseason, because if not, it then becomes a free agent next year. And you don't want to go into the year with him answering questions about it. You would rather it just be done, right? But if Igor comes around and says to you, look, my asking price is 11.5, 12 million and up, I honestly don't know what Chris Drury is going to do. It's a very hard situation. And people who said, well, you know what? You just sign him, you give him a blank check. It's not how this works. There's a salary cap here. Yeah. You could have the best goalie in the world, but if you don't have the ability to score people around him that can score goals, it doesn't matter, right? So at some point, there's a fine line with Igor, or any athlete for that matter, where you're worth a lot of money, but then you're not worth what's on the other side of this number. And it's going to be interesting with Igor. Now, I'm always a pessimist, but I'm going to give you an optimistic take. I said this the other day and someone almost fell off their chair, but this is what I think will be. I do think at the end of the day, Igor will end up taking somewhat of a hometown discount, or take a little bit less for the betterment of his team, and leave some money on the table so that it's not an astronomical number.
That would be smart.
But Igor also, remember, and it's painful to think like this, but you have to think, is 28. So if you're going to sign him to a 6-year deal, and I'm sure he's going to try and make as much term of years as he should, as he can, you have to remember he's going to be in not the decline of his career. That doesn't mean he's terrible, but he's on the downward of his elite years. That's a tough question as well.
So this is something I thought about in the past with other, in all sports. We have the salary cap, right? The Rangers can only pay him so much. but he can do endorsements. He's in the biggest marketing industry of New York City in the world, right?
Yep.
So why don't we help facilitate, putting him in a Toyota commercial, making a Nike shoe? Like, these are other ways to garner income. Why, you know what I mean? Like, what in other sports too? Like, we backdoor getting rid of players, right? Like we talked about before. How do we backdoor getting him more money? That's like off the books, if you will.
I think that there's probably the opportunity, I would think at least, for him to make a ton of endorsements here in New York that you wouldn't get elsewhere, right? I mean, you'd have to think that any athlete in New York, this is what used to drive me nuts as a Knicks fan for years. When like LeBron, for example, in the decision in 2010, when he went to Miami, in my head, I'm like, you're an idiot because you would have made more money in endorsements playing in the greatest city in the world, the Mecca of basketball, right? So hopefully that he can offset those kinds of things as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing to me where it's frustrating because there is going to be, and people do not understand this, there is a fine line of where it is too much money. It's not a blank check.
Yeah, and if he wins and surrounds himself with talent, his stock even goes even higher with endorsement deals. If he's a Stanley Cup winner, and you know what I mean, like.
But Igor will look at that point of view or that side of it and say to himself, I may not win the Stanley Cup if I stay here because I have players like Zibanejad and Kreider and Panarin who are not doing anything in the playoffs. Do I have a better chance elsewhere?
So if you're let's ask that question. You're Igor, and you're not getting the money you want from the Rangers. Who would pay you, and where would you go?
Who would pay him
besides the Devils?
Who
desperately need a goalie?
You'd be here's the thing. You'd be hard pressed to find a team that was ready to win. You could get more money, but the chances are that team that has more money isn't ready to win. Yeah. So you're almost saying, look, I don't care as much, and it's his prerogative. He can think what he wants, but I'm going to go get more money, but I'm not going to win. Like, I'll tell you a place he could go, and I don't know their salary cap situation. If he went here, they are instantly the Stanley Cup favorite. I mean, instantly.
What team is that?
Edmonton. I mean, we were in a goal of Game 7 with Stuart Skinner as your goalie. I mean, if that team ever got a goalie, now I don't know their cap situation up there, and I don't think it's good because from what I hear, they're losing a lot of people. So I don't know teams' cap situations well enough, but I can tell you, like, I can't think of a team other than Edmonton that is that close. And the thing that the reason they're not there yet is strictly the goalie. Like, maybe you could say Carolina, right? Carolina, if they didn't have Freddie Anderson, was a good team, but they're going to lose a lot of players. They're going to lose Pesky, who sounds like he's going to the Devils. They're probably going to lose Niches. They're losing Gensel. Like, they may not be as good, so that wouldn't be a fit. Philly, and I mean, if you had a good goalie on Philly, I don't think it's much different. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, even in the Atlantic,
you might get more money, but your best chance. All right, forget
Toronto.
The money now. Forget
Toronto.
The money. Best chances to win.
Best chances to win if he didn't go to the Rangers.
Yeah,
and so if he signed somewhere else and is the best, it's Edmonton. Not even close. If Igor Shesterkin ended up in Edmonton,
yes,
that team is a massive Stanley Cup favorite.
Okay.
Lucky
for us, they have money issues.
I don't think he's going to want to go to Western Canada. You ever been to Edmonton?
No.
So I'll give you a great story. I went to Edmonton for work. I had to go to Edmonton for work. This was 10 years ago. Now, there were a couple things that were really cool about Edmonton.
Yeah.
When I travel for work, I always stay in Marriott. So I stayed in a Marriott. Okay. Yeah. In the Marriott. Now, I'm not talking like this was some weird hotel. I'm talking like a legit Marriott. Yeah. There were 2 ice hockey rinks in the Marriott. This is Canada, right? So I pull up and I'm walking to my room. It's like late at night. And they have literally hockey rinks in the Marriott.
That's crazy.
That teams are playing, not professional teams, whatever. And then the other thing that was really cool is they had a casino in this Marriott.
Wow.
And you know what the limit with the exchange rate, the like table limit was for craps? $1 craps.
Wow. Nice. Let's go.
Yeah. I don't think he wants to go to Edmonton. Although Edmonton does have a really cool mall.
Marriott.
So, no, that's a cool Marriott, and it also has I think it's called the West Edmonton Mall. Is the second? It's either the second or third largest mall in the world. Like it's behind Mall of America, but it was really cool. Like both my nights, I went there and like walked around and checked out. It's a cool spot, but it's not cool enough that Igor Shesterkin would be magnetized to go there. I'm trying to think of other teams. Vancouver wouldn't need a goalie. Dallas doesn't need a. Yeah, it's Edmonton, but I think you try and sign Igor sooner than later. 100%.
Chris says Igor wouldn't want to play with McDavid. Is that sarcastic?
Yeah, I'm sure that's sarcastic. I don't know. I don't know what goalie and what planet wouldn't want to play with him.
All right, so money's not an issue, Edmonton. So thank God it is an issue.
Right
now, these are all in the Rangers' favor.
Yeah,
this is all in the Rangers' favor.
And
so
the Rangers also
take the cut, bro.
You're also got to remember. Would I trade Draisaitl for Shesterkin? No, I would not. That is a question. I would not do that. It does have a water park, also the West Edmonton Mall. People, yes, it does have a water park. The West Edmonton Mall, if you ever do end up there, I will say, like, I remember walking through it. It's a really cool spot. You should check it out. But what was I totally lost what I was saying.
It's in the Rangers' favor.
It's in their favor to sign him this offseason versus next.
Yeah.
Last question. Do you take Chris Moore, if he's watching still, will love this question. Do you take a chance before the season ends and have the rest of Dan Girardi's blood injected into the team? This way there's no injuries through the season. Yes. Dan Girardi was a warrior, puck blocking shot warrior from back in the day. That is it for us. So let me talk to you about our schedule. So because a lot of you were messaging last week, and I can maybe save you messaging. Free agency starts Monday. You'll have a ton of activity. You'll have a lot of trades and whatnot. May not be major stuff, but you'll have a lot of movement over the weekend. We are not on next week. I am away. I am actually out of the country. What I might do from out of the country, because the internet does work out of the country, I may do like a live kind of thing, like a free agency recap. We'll do that next week. We are not on studio next week. We will be on the following week on Wednesday, July 10th. So our next show is July 10th, where we will recap that. We also might have Molly Walker on with us that week. We spoke with her the other day. So we will probably have either Molly Walker, Dan Rosen, someone that can tie together and you can get other opinions other than me about the moves that the Rangers made in free agency. Because you have to also remember here, when we have our next show, July 10th, which is only less than 2 weeks away, you're going to have a pretty good read on what the Rangers roster is going to be. Like, you'll know who they're signing. I mean, look, if it's Zegras, through trade, is it Kane? So it'll be all that. I will try to be live through the draft. Mark, I saw your comment. Again, I am going to be out of the country. I will do something on Monday, probably from the Dominican Republic. I'll find a way to do some sort of free agent recap kind of thing. Once we know what's going on and what they've done, they have to make moves. I'm not going to come on at 12 o'clock and just sit there and you watch me at the pool be like, all right, waiting to see what happens. Once we have some sort of news, we'll do that. But that will be it for us. Any questions on you from your end?
So when you're sitting at the pool, you're going to have your MYPB hat on and a flannel?
No, the MYPB hat does not go to the Dominican Republic. That is the wrong time of year for that hat. But I'll do, and I appreciate it, guys, but I will do something from the Dominican Republic for free agency. We won't be signing. Okay, I'm going to wait a second. Someone wrote last question on Instagram. I'll let you put that through Gibby, and then I will take it, provided it is a valid question. Do you buy out Hedl if you can't move him, freeze up $4 million? Chris with a good question.
Wow.
And I'll get to your question, Gibby. I see it. No, I do not buy out Philip Hedl. Gibby's question, will Lindy be here next year? There's a chance he's not. Restricted free agent. Yeah. I mean, look, I love Ryan Lindgren. I love Ryan Lindgren when he plays, but he's a reckless player. He gets injured a lot. If you told me that I don't want to put him in the Kakko boat. That's not fair. But if you told me they moved on from Ryan Lindgren, I'd be okay. I wouldn't love it, but I'd be okay.
So there's like, you're okay with letting these players walk, right? Which should free up. You should free up to get your top pick for your right wing. It should give you some money to play with.
Let's hope.
It should give you some money to play with, right?
I'll take one more question from Abby in the chat. Were you shocked about the results of the Stanley Cup? No, I was not shocked that Florida won. I was surprised that Edmonton was able to. The fact that it went 7 games, But was I shocked by it? No. I had a ton of respect from Florida from the way they beat the Rangers, and I would pick them in the series to win the Stanley Cup. So I was definitely not shocked. So no show next week. I'll be out of the country, but I will do something with a live at some point with free agents. We thank the Bamboozle Project as always for their sponsorship. You can check them out at thebamboozleproject.com. Use promo code MYPB and save yourself 20% off your total order. We thank DraftKings as well. And we will not be live streaming the draft. That's another question. We will not for tomorrow night. No. Thank you for the vacation wishes. Gibby, thank you for the questions today. Thank you for participating. And last comment we'll put up, which will leave a bad taste in your mouth. We'll put Brett's comment up, which is I'm already sick of seeing Florida in the Stanley Cup, and it's only been 3 days. Get used to it. But you know what? They earned it, right? You had a chance. We will talk to you guys. Have a great 4th of July next week as well. We will talk to you next week. 2 weeks.